It has been a while, but here we are again. Once again, best decks for Encounter, so let's look at them. First deck first, Classic Overwhelm, a deck that I have even deck guide on, like 2 months ago. And it's a deck that I've evolved a little bit. We got in Snowdog and we got in Razor Mace. Razor Mace especially being amazing at, giving the curse into your opponent hand. Just being such an efficient throw drop, as well, especially if you hit buff from Monarch or Snowdog on it, then being 4 mana 5/5 is just so powerful and just goes crazy. Amazing addition to this deck. Of course, then classic late game with the Rico style with things like Battlefield and Maneuver. Of course, not being that much all-in as Rico tends to be, but still quite important cards to have. As well, of course, using things like Sky Splitter as an amazing defensive tool. When we look at the win rate, it's sitting currently on 56% win rate with 5% play rate. So it has crazy play rate and still keeping this win rate. As we can see, 87 good matchups, only 24 bad matchups. But even if you look at the bad matchups, it's like 45%, 47, 46, 45%, right? Like the matchups that are bad are not really bad. And that's something that you just want from your deck when you're going on ladder, when you want to climb. It's just, not having bad matchups, and that's something that this deck provides you, and it's an amazing choice for climbing. Second deck, a deck that kind of popped off on World Championship while Seko's playing it, is Dragons. This is a little bit different approach though, using only one other dragon, but going on 2 Morganas. Why Morgana over other dragon is kind of clear. Other dragon tends to be a little bit clunky, as well Morgana is such an efficient tool that also can even level in this deck with things like, boons that of course level it, as well strikes that give +2 to her level up. So she's just so efficient and she's so good at stabilizing, with this deck having sometimes some issues in the early game, but in the end, when you play her, she's just 1 mana 3 for lifesteal basically, and she's just so good. That's the deck, very straightforward. And we can of course look at the matchup table. Once again, 57 good matchups, 70 bad matchups. 2% play rate, 54% win rate. Not the craziest win rate, but still, it's doing very powerful things. It's beating things like Gnar. Of course, the Overwhelm we just mentioned, for example. And a lot of like very dominant and decks that you meet a lot. Losing to some maybe like decks that you don't meet that much, but also not losing that much once again. If you look at it, 48% win rate, 46, 41, 49. These matchups, even though they are bad, they are not really that bad. And that's just something that sold me on this deck. Next up, we have Fizz Yuumi. Very iconic deck of this year. A deck that I don't think I need to introduce. And I would even say after Jackson, maybe the second most iconic deck of this year, because we have seen it in multiple metas already. Of course, a deck that abuses elusives and then Yuumi or Bone Cup as an attachment and just goes crazy. Big selling point of this deck is that sometimes you have hands that are just not beatable with anything. And when we look at the overall the matchups, is that it's having 54% win rate with 2.5% play rate, doing well into things like Mordekaiser Morgana, Dragon Shyvana, and many more decks. And as said, sometimes you have just hands that are not beatable, and you don't need that many things. It's usually just, Yuumi and multiple elusives, and it just goes crazy. Definitely worth to mention that next to Fizz Yuumi, we have also Teemo Yuumi, a deck that doesn't go big, but goes wide. And, on stats, it's having 57% win rate, actually the biggest win rate currently in the game. Let's be honest, Yuumi is kind of problematic card, and I kind of hope this cat gonna get rotated, but, let's move on. The last deck that we have for today video is Morgana Riven Demacia, not a Targon that you might have been used to see in the last weeks, but it's very similar to the Targon version that we have known from the ladder. It's using, though, some, of course, very powerful Demacia tools like Mageseeker Inquisitor or Magical Feathering to be a little bit better into these spells-heavy decks, as well using things like Single Combat and Cataclysm to not only get some interaction, but also get another attack with Cataclysm, as well another procs for Morgana to maybe be able to level up. Otherwise, it's so funny to see Riven finally get in the spotlight. Of course, she works so well with Morgana, but also in the end, First Splitter was exactly what she needed to be finally good. And in the end, there's also not many good Noxus champions, so it's kind of interesting to see it that way. And this deck, we don't have that much data on, but in the end, it's having 55% win rate with not much play rate, but it's definitely something worth to try. And maybe it's gonna be good. It's gonna be even better than this stats shows. So definitely something worth checking out as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna try to make this video a little bit more frequently, but shit happens. Have a happy holidays and see you in the next video.